Well, hi and welcome. Just the other week, a whole team of us at IDC Europe published a new report focused on the changing process mining market called Deeper, Wider, Further, Process Mining's Evolution to Active Process Intelligence. And today, I'm joined by Edita Kozowska and Tom Seal, who worked with me and others on the report. It's really great to have you here. Hi, Edita and Tom.
Hello, good morning.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me on this. I think it's going to be fun. So let's start by very quickly introducing the topic for people who may not know so much about it. So Tom, why don't you start us off by sharing a quick overview of what process mining is?
Yeah, so process mining is an exercise whereby a business seeks to discover and map the processes that are in use within the organization. So typically this would start with a major application. So you might start with an ERP system, for example, maybe one that you've been using for a long period, maybe decades, and you'd want to understand exactly how processes are operating in practice, and you'd start to discover using these applications how processes are running. And I suppose the main point to make here is that it may start with a particular enterprise application, maybe an ERP system, but to understand the full process, you'll typically want to go beyond that and start looking at the full end-to-end process from that initial trigger point right the way through to its completion. So yeah, process mining is about understanding, mapping, and identifying opportunities within these long extended business processes, with the intention, of course, of then improving those processes.
Right. And I think it's fair to say also, isn't it, that process mining is using kind of digital tools to do this by looking at the log files that applications create. So it's not about people walking around the business with clipboards looking at what other people are doing and drawing diagrams. It's done by essentially gathering data from the systems themselves and then creating the maps from that.
That's right. Yeah. So it's taking those log files, identifying pieces of data that can then be traced through the business. So it may be in the purchase to pay process, for example, it might be the purchase order number. It's following that trace the whole way through the business and really understanding the life cycle of that transaction right from start to finish, and seeing maybe where it got held up, maybe where an error occurred, essentially where there are areas for improvement, really.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tom. So we know that process mining technology has been around for 10 years or so, quite a while, but interest has for sure taken off really strongly over the past couple of years. So just recently, a couple of years ago, we saw UiPath by Process Gold. Signavio was bought by SAP. And then just the other day, IBM bought MyInvenio, an Italian specialist in this space. So the question is, I suppose, why is there such market excitement about process mining now? And Edita, I'm going to come to you to help us figure that one out.
Well, actually, we can tell that the main driver for process mining is the operational excellence. So how companies can make their processes more efficient. And looking at last year, for example, majority of our surveys at IDC show how important efficiency has become for organizations. But another driver is also digital transformation, which is accelerating all over the world. And process mining is very often the basic of various automation programs within wider digital transformation agendas of organizations. So what often companies are doing are conducting process mining in order to identify processes that are not only less efficient against benchmarks, but also that are more suitable for automation and can bring fast ROI, for example. And recently, what we see, especially from our agenda, because Tom and I are focusing on enterprise application market, is that in many large organizations, right now, very, very important topic is modernization of legacy ERP systems. So in those cases, process mining tools are also very, very helpful in order to identify processes that would be the best fit for modernization. And they can also help to simply build a business case for ERP modernization and show which actual processes, when they will be modernized, can bring tangible benefits for the company.
Great stuff. Well, it's kind of multi-dimensional, isn't it? And there's a whole bunch of things all kind of happening together. Thanks very much, Edita. So moving on then, I mean, one of the other things that was really interesting as we did this report, we interviewed, I think it was 9 different vendors, and it was clear from as a group, us doing this, that the process mining vendors aren't standing still. They're all moving in different directions. But there are, like the report title suggests, 3 kind of common directions that they're all taking as a group. Some are going deeper, some are going wider, and some are going further. I mean, Tom, could you give us a bit more, kind of unpack that a bit for us and help us understand, what that really means? How are the process mining vendors actually changing what they do?
Yeah, so it's expanding on the title a little bit and explaining why the process miners are expanding in some of those directions. I mean, of course, it's for differentiation, but some of the things that are helping those, or some of the variables that are helping those process miners differentiate themselves are by aligning, I suppose, firstly with automation. So, of course, one of the natural things you are going to do once you've mapped out your processes is identify opportunities to improve them through automation. So naturally, there is a strong alignment between process mining and automation, and sometimes that is occurring under one roof within a vendor. So that's one possibility, of course. And another is, as Edita mentioned, this link between process mining and modernization. So if you want to modernize your ERP, for example, one of the big barriers is, well, understanding exactly how things currently work. How can you possibly move to your future enterprise, future application suite or setup if you don't understand exactly how your business is currently operating? So we've got a number of vendors that are very strongly aligned with ERP modernization in particular, but of course it's broader than that. And we've seen the acquisition of Signavio, which is really very closely linked to the role of process mining in ERP modernization, with SAP in particular. But others have gone a slightly different direction. So another couple of vendors are really much more focused on helping people who have more business roles understand processes to drive improvement. So they're targeting a different persona, I suppose, less technical, more business orientated. So that's occurring. And I suppose the sort of another overriding consideration here is the difference between a process mining exercise that is one-off, where you're diving in, understanding your business at a moment in time, versus the utilization of this kind of application to drive continuous improvement. So that's another thing where that varies a little bit among vendors, but of course, all vendors need to make sure that they are that they're going to be able to generate recurring revenue, of course, by ensuring that their tools have a place within the enterprise for the long term, driving continuous improvement. So process mining isn't just this one hit, understand the business, make some changes and improvements, and then move on to the next thing. Process improvement needs to be a continuous exercise for the success of business, but also for the success of these vendors. They need to make sure that process mining is something that's continuous, or at least frequently revisited.
Right. That's a really good point, and I think it's certainly true for the more aggressive of the vendors that maybe gone large with venture capital, right? Developing that sustainable revenue model where there's a long-term subscription relationship is super important, of course. Brilliant. Thanks so much, Tom. So before we finish, let's wrap up with some of the key findings that we kind of came away with after doing this research. So I'm going to start off quickly by talking a little bit about the enterprise perspective. And then I'll pass to Edita and Tom to talk about some of the other things we've discovered. So from an enterprise perspective, from a buyer perspective, I guess it's a pretty simple message, which is that, process mining has been around a while, but the tools really have matured a lot. They're by and large quite easy to use. And it's a very valuable discipline and technology that can help organizations accelerate automation programs, to build automation pipelines so they can understand where to go with their automation initiatives. And as Tom and Edita said, also really help drive transformation, things like ERP modernization. And at the same time, it's not just about accelerating, it's also about minimizing risk, because you can think of this as being a bit like a sat nav. Actually just knowing where to go, knowing what to prioritize, knowing what's going to give you the best return, and understanding where there might be potential pitfalls. All really, really important things to be able to do. And process mining technology is really valuable from a whole variety of perspectives for that reason. So Edita, do you want to give us a quick overview of what we're thinking about the process mining community specifically?
Yes, thank you, Neil. So I think that Tom mentioned a couple of things already. So what we discovered is that for those process mining vendors who are already established and well capitalized, the best way forward is to either go deeper, wider, further, and go further within the value chain, for example. So not only help organizations discover processes, but also to analyze them, and also very often to become a consultant for them, to help them to understand those processes and identify those more suitable for digitalization, for automation, or simply to other ways of improvement. But for those vendors, the smaller ones, simply starting their operations, we think that there are also many other market niches. So for example, they can become more domain specialists and focus on particular industries or on particular use cases, right? Like for example, compliance use cases to help companies to verify whether their processes are compliant with the regulations, for example, in financial industry. And also referring to the point that Tom made about the sustainable growth and having the lifetime relation with the customer, not only one-shot project. We think that linking the process mining activities with customer experience and employee experience would be one of the best ways to solve that problem, and to show how discovering and enhancing processes can help to drive better customer experience and employee experience.
Brilliant. Thanks, Edita. And Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about more of the enterprise app vendor perspective on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think just generally this high level of interest in process mining is great if you're an automation or enterprise applications vendor, because process mining is identifying inefficiencies, opportunities for improvement within business processes that ultimately is likely to drive investment in applications. So that's great. And many of these process mining tools are quite powerful when it comes to establishing the business case as well. So some process mining tools allow simulation, routes to establishing the ROI of projects. So very powerful. But I suppose the thing to be careful of is that this is very much a data-driven exercise that is going to be very specific about the challenges that need to be overcome. So if you are an enterprise applications vendor, you need to, of course, make sure that your technology roadmap is addressing those weaknesses that are being highlighted. Otherwise, it's a real missed opportunity. So I suppose my advice to enterprise applications vendors on the whole would be to stay close to the findings of these process mining exercises, get a sense of the types of weakness that the particularly big enterprises are identifying, and making sure that the technology roadmap is addressing those, because there's well, it'd just be such a shame to miss that opportunity here. So yeah.
All right, well, Edita, Tom, thank you so much for your insight. It's been absolutely brilliant. Really lovely to have you with me for this conversation. And to you all, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it valuable. I know I did. And if you enjoyed this, as always, please like and share and subscribe. And we'll all hopefully see you very soon. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.